What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red and Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. Today, we're going to be breaking down the 49ers 2022 NFL draft class and undrafted free agent signings. I wasn't able to make day 2 or day 3 and part of day 1, Matt, but how are you feeling about this draft class overall?
I feel a lot better after the undrafted free agents. Particularly, a lot of people will know during, I guess, day 2 of the draft, rounds 2 and 3. If you were with us on the live show, we weren't particularly happy. I think at this point, we were sitting here thinking, Drake Jackson, fine, right? Like maybe you're going into a position of strength. That's fine. But it was a pick that was there in terms of best player available, despite the fact that there were, I think, bigger needs on the board. They went with Drake Jackson, so I'm not mad at that pick. The next pick, Ty Davis Price, I believe, TDP, is I'm going to refer to him here on out. That was the one where we really kind of scratched our head and I'm like, what are they doing? Drafting yet again another running back in the mid rounds. This, follows up with Joe Williams. This follows up with Trey Sermon just last year. And you could kind of see whose fingerprints were on this early, right? Drake Jackson, that's probably, John Lynch going to bat for somebody, right? TDP, that's a Kyle Shanahan move. And, I guess stuff came out after the draft that Mike Shanahan had actually talked and spoken to TDP. And so you wonder if Mike had a little bit of input on that too. And then Danny Gray, deep speed guy. That one wasn't too bad either. So after that, I was a little upset at first, sleeping on it. I was like, all right, that was average, I guess. Day 3 was better. I think they addressed a lot of positions of need. They went after stuff that they absolutely needed. And, did a little bit better job. And I think it's reflective of what I've been saying all along. When you get into rounds 1, 2, and 3, that's where John and Kyle have their fingerprints all over the draft. But after that, you start getting into the Adam Peters guys, the scouts guys, the ones that actually, and it's why the 49ers do so well in those late rounds, I think, is just because the guys that do the most work on these prospects are the ones that know them the best, rather than the coach who has to come in and kind of put together an aggregate of what everybody's saying and try to make the best decision he can, or John Lynch, who, despite being the 49ers GM, is a first-time GM, has no experience on this side of the ball prior to this, so there could still be a lot going on. So for me, it was like it got better as the draft went on, and then personally, I think they killed it with undrafted free agents. I mean, that's where this actually is the saving grace, is what they did after the draft, and I think that's been a hallmark of this regime so far.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of has been just the way that they're able to kind of show off their scouting abilities. It's almost like the back end of the draft is more impressive than like the first day or two, because they're able to kind of make up for it. And I've seen a lot of these draft experts, and take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, it's kind of hard to say who won the draft a day after it happened. But they all are kind of in agreement that the 49ers really get their money's worth in the later rounds, and then in undrafted free agent signings. Going edge on the first pick for the 49ers, which was pick 61.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that.
I knew, yeah, you're very unhappy. Totally understand.
You're talking about a borderline, somebody who is graded on the football field as a borderline first-round talent, though. So I get that move. That's fine. It is what it is,
Yeah, exactly. I think the main problem, and I don't even want to say problem, but I guess just point that the people who were opposed to drafting an edge rusher with the first pick is that it's not their greatest area of need. And right. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, but the 49ers desperately need somebody opposite of Nick Bosa. That's what they envisioned D Ford to be. That didn't turn out. I get it. But there were, in my opinion, that problem is not as great as protecting quarterback, getting help in the secondary. It's still a problem. Don't get me wrong. But
they turned Kerry Hyder with no Nick Bosa out on the field into an 8.5 sack guy.
Yeah.
So for me, you have Nick Bosa, right? You kicked Eric Armstead back to inside where he's more effective. You still have Samson Ebukam. You still have, a couple of other guys that you could put in that position. I don't think that it was a big area of need. Now, do I think this pick makes them better? Some room. because they're ridiculously deep on the defensive line yet again. But yeah, I'm with you. There were good players on the board at safety, at corner, interior offensive line. There were guys that they could have taken that were, that could have been there, that for the 49ers in a spot where they desperately needed it. You're talking about losing Lake and Tomlinson. The fact of the matter is, during the post-draft press conference yesterday, Kyle Shanahan said, we're keeping our fingers crossed on Alex Mack, which if that's the way that you're running the roster, that's concerning to me that, but for all intents and purposes, for me, I think that Alex Mack is gone. I think that they're thinking that he's like, that he's maybe coming back. Right now, I think they're probably thinking he's leaning towards retirement. This is one of those things when you get to a certain year in your career, you're really not making decisions until training camp hits, right? Like you start gearing it up and like, am I feeling this? And we've seen it, right? Players love to play the games. It's training camp that they don't want to get through. So we'll see. But to me, it feels like he's leaning that he's going to retire. And I think that, we'll talk about it later, but some of the moves that they made with the undrafted guys it kind of speaks to their thoughts on that too.
Exactly. And yeah, Hunk Fat said, I wish they drafted them center. Does this mean they think Mack is returning? I think they're hoping that, obviously, but I don't know if they even know.
See, and I think that, and I'll just get out of the way. My favorite undrafted free agent signing was Donovan West, who was like projected to be like a 4th round guy and just didn't get selected for some reason. But them picking up Donovan West for the amount of money that they did for an undrafted free agent, they gave him $100,000 guarantee. That's huge, and that tells me that they think that he might not be back. Don't buy their smoke about what all the bullshit they were saying about Jake Brendel. They don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, that was a little alarming if they do. But Collie and Steve made the point that the defensive linemen are not under contract next season, but that's easily fixable. You just sign them. There are ways to get around this.
We've seen time and time again, though, the role players, they sign for 1 year contract, 2 year contract. I mean, how many times did Jaquaski Tart play on a 1 or a 2 year contract the last couple of years or whatever? Jason Verrett's been here on like 4 straight 1 year deals. That's the way that they operate. And the reason why they do that is it gives them flexibility to sign their stars. That's what they do. As far as playing rookie centers, dude, if you can play, you can play. Just because he hasn't yet doesn't mean that he won't if that's the best person available. So that doesn't hold with me either.